Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle. One of my favorite times of the week is when I get to interview a guest like Dr. Ya-Ling Liu, because the people that agree to be on this podcast bring what I believe to be the most important things we need to know to feel good in our bodies and our lives. And one of the things that can take away feeling good is pain. And Ya-Ling is an expert in pain relief, pain management, how to think about pain, that kind of thing. So I thought it would be a great conversation for us to have. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is fun. I love it.
Good. I'm going to just tell people briefly your CV kind of data, and then I'll let you tell them how you arrived here.
Sure.
So you are currently a chiropractic physician. You have more than 30 years of clinical experience, and you had Eastern as well as Western influences as you were growing up, which of course would influence your approach to health and health care. And went to school, did the thing, and here you are practicing helping people in the unique way that chiropractors do. So, what was it about pain and or chiropractic? Which came first, the pain or the chiropractic for you?
That's a good question. I think in my consciousness, the chiropractic came first. And then when I was already practicing for several years, it occurred to me that I did actually have a pain experience as a child that came to the surface as I was creating these book resources. So being here is about, yes, getting my doctorate in chiropractic, but the reason that I'm where I am now in my practice is because I've reflected on in my through my writing projects, I've had the chance to reflect on why I do what I do the way that I do it. And it became clear after I remembered this incident that I had as a kid, so many things fell into place. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I woke up with a stiff neck. It was very painful. It radiated into my shoulder blade as neck pain often does. But as an 8-year-old or at that age, I was very scared. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't move. It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't wasn't a very active child, so there wasn't a specific injury that happened. I just woke up with it. And my parents took me to see the family chiropractor for the first time. I had never had chiropractic before. And that experience was so traumatic
Oh
that
dear.
I never wanted to go back. It didn't feel like it helped. And I was just more scared afterwards. And
Hmm.
so we ended up just applying ice and waiting it out, basically. And then for years after that, decades, I would have these repeat episodes, and it just became part of my identity almost as like
Hmm.
I have this weak neck and this is just what happens, and it never made sense to me. And so it was long into my practice before I really understood what was going on and how to get out of the pattern. And then I realized as well that the way I practice is the way that I wish I had been treated as a child. The chiropractic style that I have is slow. I spend what some would say too much time with my patients. I do soft tissue work. The lights are low, the setting is soothing. And so what I'm doing is I'm tending to my own nervous system, but I'm also, by doing that, sharing with patients what it is that really helps treatment hold. So that's the experiential part. And then we can talk about the books as well if
Oh,
that comes
absolutely,
up. Yeah.
absolutely. I do want to bring up something. So this is one of the books that nobody's going to tote around with them. It's quite
No,
thick.
it's a
It's
job
got
security for me.
it's got lots of exercises in it, but there are a couple of things in the beginning of the book which I want to introduce our conversation by quoting here. So you say that pain adaptive patterns are a reasonable response to unreasonable circumstances, but ignoring the root of that pain and allowing adaptation to persist unaddressed, we may teach our brains and nervous systems one of two maladaptive responses. On the one hand, ignoring pain leads the brain and nervous system to be less agile at finding a way out of pain. And on the other hand, we may end up inadvertently teaching our biology to return to pain more easily in the future. Let's start there. So the nervous system is really at play here. I
It
mean, aside
really is.
from the nerve endings and the pain receptors, there's a bigger part that it is playing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a juicy ball of wax. So I should clarify the kind of pain that I see the most and what I write about and talk about is the everyday variety. And as benign as that sounds, these are pains that can be really disabling. But they usually start feel like they come out of the blue, like waking up with pain or doing something that we've done a million times before without pain. So I'm not talking about the classic or true chronic pain, which is the kind of pain that comes from a disease process that doesn't have a resolution or a serious injury like multiple fractures, right? And even post surgical pain to some degree is more complex than the everyday variety. So that clarification is important because some of the ways that true chronic pain is addressed is really helpful and important. But I think with the advent of pain science and the evolution of the information that's out there about how to respond to chronic pain when it's something that you have to live with, I think we somehow as a society have absorbed that as, oh, this is how we should be responding to and interacting with all pain. And that's really hard for me to see because a lot of my patients who come in for treatment have these ideas in their minds about this is just how it is. This pain is just the beginning of the end. I'm just getting older. And they are bracing themselves for they're getting ready to have this pain the rest of their lives. And I just don't, that's not reality. And I spend a lot of time trying to explain to people and show them really it's through showing them how to get relief that people understand, oh, I actually have a lot of control over this. And the ignoring pain and teaching my brain that this is normal actually is setting me up for chronic pain. And then that's a whole other mess.
So you also say, speaking about what you teach your patients, this is something I think everybody should know. Whether the modality is massage, physical therapy, chiropractic, or acupuncture, results are only temporary if we as patients don't take action. And I know that the inverse is popular, that when you're injured or in pain, you should do less exercise or not move, not walk. And just talk about that a little.
Yeah, that's definitely it's an attractive solution to back off of what you're doing. And it's easy for the nervous system to get nervous about being active when a specific activity is causing pain. The other piece is also that feeds into this other notion that's out there about how there's something wrong with us. If we're in pain, there's something wrong or defective or broken that someone needs to fix for us. But what I spend a lot of time talking about with people is this treatment is a way to introduce to your nervous system the idea of, oh yeah, this is what it feels like to be pain free. And then it's your job and your nervous system's job to take that into your everyday life. And there are ways that we can do that can transform how we relate to the pain, but also how persistent that pain can become. No matter how much treatment we receive, if we don't learn how to maintain those
Mm.
changes into our everyday life, that's where things get really complicated. And it's funny, I'm just now working on a new service that I'm trying to shape where I take my guidance into the home. I'm offering people to either virtually or physically go into their homes with them and see what their daily routines are so that I can help them navigate it, keeping in mind their specific body needs. Everybody's got a unique setup, unique physiology, unique nervous system, and then putting that into the environment that they live in. It can require some help. And I often wish that I could go home with my patients because when they leave the office and they're feeling okay, I know I hear about this when they come back next time. They went home and did A, B, or C, and the pain came back. Yeah, it's
I have this image of if somebody isn't watching television at some point during their day, I want to meet you because I don't know. It's just, I like it at the end of the day. I do watch the news. We all have our streaming shows. And I
yeah,
think about the variety of sitting situations. Couches. We have a couch downstairs. One side is completely molded to my husband because that's where he sits and he's bigger than I am. And I have my little couch. But I keep thinking, what is this doing for his back? When he becomes the letter C when he gets on the couch. And even when we sit at a desk, we tend to, some of us hunch over. It's easy when we get tired of holding ourselves upright. And
Yeah.
when people lay in bed, they wake up in pain from sleeping. So is that the mattress? Is that how they left shoulder, right shoulder, right? So going into somebody's home would be phenomenal for you to
Yeah.
gather information and to pinpoint what they could do different to see if that helps. That's a great idea.
Yeah. I'm really excited to do it. I'm calling it Pain Proof Your Home.
I love it.
Yeah. And I
Even
love that.
shoes, do shoes end up, I don't mean the tightness of or looseness of a shoe, but I'm thinking the shoes that people wear could affect the pain in their lower back or their legs or the neck even.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Yes. And it's different for everybody. Some people actually need a heel in order to take the stress off their
Oh,
back. And so
really?
that we have this common idea that high heels are actually bad for the back, which they often are, but it really depends on your anatomy and all the things you've done with it for years.
This is a sidebar question, but since you mentioned
Oh, I
shoes,
love
or I
those.
mentioned shoes, there's this whole movement of zero gravity or lower gravity shoes, non-soled sneakers. I don't even know what they're called. But is that for some people? I can't believe it's good for everybody to have their heel lower than the rest of their foot.
I think those are probably the people who do better in higher heels. I do see people who just can't wear those zero drop shoes, I
That's
think
what
they
they are,
call.
zero drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do also with gradual transition. So you can't just
Hmm.
go from what you're wearing to a zero drop right away. In my opinion, I think any transition you make, even if it's a mattress or a
Hmm.
pillow situation, you got to ease into it and play around with. Maybe it's not the total zero drop that you need. Maybe it's something in between. Yeah,
Yeah, my
everybody.
friend was like, "Oh, you got to get these things." And I'm, you know what? I like my feet in the shoes or out of the shoes that I have. And I love going barefoot. I ran into a woman the other day. She said, "You should never go barefoot." My podiatrist said, and I said, "Why?" You could get bunions, you could cut yourself, you could get an infection. And I'm thinking, all of those things are true. And they will still be true whether I wear shoes or not. It's just funny how people put so many restrictions on us. But okay,
Yeah, we like
back to the
rules.
pain thing. We do like rules, but
Yeah.
I'm not rebellious wellness. This is not a
Ah,
loving person. I've lost my little post-it thing here, but talk to us about how the emotional, I'm going to call it management of pain is important. Like how we view, you talked about some people come in and they say, this is the end of me. I've got this pain. It's only going to get worse. I'm aging. But that's an emotional response, but it's also a conditioned response from the outside world where we're getting older, things are going to happen. But what's the role of emotion, how we view our pain and in its relief?
oh, that could be a show in itself, actually.
I'll have you back then.
Oh, that'd be great. So just from volume two, where emotion comes in, is in the stress biology section. So at the end of the book, I've got three sections. I look at body mechanics, body chemistry, and stress biology. And our emotional state and how we think about ourselves and how we fit into the world and our place in the world, basically, all of that impacts how well or not we can move out of our pain, or how well we may set up ourselves to be in pain for a lot longer than we need to. So I spent some time talking about our belief systems, our beliefs about health and wellness. We get into the psychology of nocebo and placebo. We all know about that theory that if you believe something works, that it will, to some degree, change your biology and it will work for you to an extent. And the same thing is true for the opposite, the converse, which means that if you believe something is going to harm you, then it's very likely that your biology will respond in a way that matches that expectation. And in fact, expectations are really important when it comes to pain because a lot of our pain experience has to do with what we expect. I like to use that analogy about the when you're walking through the woods, if you happen to be hiking and you run into a grizzly bear, your body is gonna go into reaction mode and you're gonna hightail it out of there. that one experience is probably going to change your expectations the next time you go into the woods. And if you hear a rustling and it happens to be a squirrel, you don't care that it's a squirrel. You're going to probably hightail it out of there again, just in case, right?
Yeah.
And we do the same thing with sensations. So when we have experiences with pain, early experiences with pain, those can really shape how we respond through the rest of our lives. And that's where my most recent book, which I didn't actually plan to write, but I found I needed to finally say something about it because it's something I've been observing in people for decades. And I just didn't quite know how to broach the topic. It's delicate. You don't want to tell someone that the way they're thinking is the problem. It's a touchy topic.
Yeah.
But that book is What's Your Pain Personality? And so I've come to recognize that there are these three main ways that people respond or react reflexively when they're faced with adversity, and in this case, pain. The way that I like to broach the topic is I'll ask someone, so think about the first time you remember having any kind of pain experience. What was the situation? Was it, did you fall off your bike? Did you hit your head on the coffee table? Did you bang your thumb with something minor but memorable? And who was around? What sort of things do you remember about how you felt? What did you hear people say? How did they react around you? And those will give you some clues about how your nervous system was trained to react to not just pain, but adversity in general. And I find that whole field of behavior science really fascinating because it influences how well I can help someone.
And they say, of course, that when emotion is high, the memory is stronger. We
Right?
might have seen a butterfly in the woods and that wouldn't trigger anything. But then when we saw that grizzly bear, that's a high emotional, intense event. And it's going to stay with us. Like you said, then you hear the noise, or maybe you smelled the smell that smelled like a grizzly bear. Those things will bring back the feelings, the response of the nervous system.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe you saw that in the stress biology section of the Fix the Fire Damage. I do go into how we can use our senses, our five senses, to de escalate the experience of pain. And that's basically what I do in my practice. I spent a lot of years feeling like, oh, I'm a little embarrassed that I do this frou frou, she, like I make everybody feel good because chiropractic is all about you get in there, you bang around the bones and get them out of there. But I don't like that, doesn't work for me because of my own nervous system. So I set up this sensory experience without realizing what I was doing. And when I was researching for the book, I realized, oh my gosh, this is exactly why things work in my office the way they do. So when we can use our sense of smell, our sense of touch, sight, sounds, everything that helps to change the nervous system's experience of the situation. So you can play soft music, dim the lights, really work on what scents are in your environment. And so you mentioned the smell of the grizzly bear or whatnot, or the woods. That's super powerful.
Yeah, I've read, I don't know which hospital it was, one of the forward-thinking hospitals that uses aromatherapy in post-surgical treatment and pre-surgical, but that's for a different, that's the thing. On the other side, they're helping patients with a lot of pain so that they don't have to give them more opioids or more whatever, very strong medications.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I was
It's
really
really
happy with
coming
that.
along out there. I feel like there's more and more awareness in the mainstream medical system, especially here in Seattle. Seems
Yeah.
like we're really using pain science now to help people move through all that.
I'm glad you mentioned feeling like, oh, I'm doing this foofy th stuff and it's crazy. So I want anybody listening who might be thinking, oh, yeah, I've heard of those essential oils. Yeah, I like to dim the lights when I get a massage. It's very relaxing. But to take it up a notch and really open the mind to the idea that this is scientifically based stuff now. This is not woo or foo or froofy or whatever. Sure, somebody could take it to that level and say, every time you feel pain, get in the bathtub with some lavender. That would be crazy, right? It might work to a certain degree. But we're talking about other another level, again, of science that's developing that proves that these things are helpful.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about medicating pain? I know that this morning, for some reason, I had a headache. I don't get headaches, but I had one. I thought, all right, pop two Motrin. That's it. I didn't want to deal with it. I just wanted to get on with my day. But luckily, I don't have chronic pain of any kind. But I know that it's very easy for people with chronic pain to live on over the counter, or maybe they have tramadol from their doctor because they're waiting for knee replacement therapy, whatever. So again, in your book, I read there are people that push it down, right? Let's just take the over the counter thing. It'll get me through the day, and this is how it's going to be. I have this pain. Is there a reason for people to deal with that kind of everyday pain rather than just getting on with it?
Yeah, it's a complex answer. First of all, I don't prescribe medications and I don't want to officially come down on one side or the other, but this is what I see and this is what I hear from colleagues who are in the mainstream. I work with some patients who have to see a headache neurologist, and very often with people who have chronic headaches, if they take NSAIDs daily or weekly or regularly enough, they actually will develop a rebound headache. And so their headache neurologists who are really with it will say the first thing you have to do is get off the NSAIDs because that's setting you up for more headache pain, more occurrences. So it's complex because yes, the body needs to have relief in order to reset. So in some ways, whatever you can do to turn off the pain is important so that you don't let your nervous system get used to being in pain. But there is a limit. You have to think about your exit strategy from that. You can't allow that to be your crutch, right? I
Right.
think it's when we allow it to be a crutch that it becomes a problem
Mm.
biologically, chemically. So I want people to be able to remember what it's like to be pain free, whether that's with pharmaceuticals or with a strategy that I show them to do at home or something that they've learned to downregulate their nervous system response. I think it's worth it. It's worth doing it with an exit strategy.
Yeah, I like that idea of an exit strategy. So many medications are given as forever when in fact they
Mhm.
were only tested for a short time or within an on and off again kind of cycling, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
let's talk
Yeah.
about exercise
Okay.
because I know that never mind what body chemistry aspect is being worked on as we exercise. But again, going back to that idea that if you're in chronic pain, let's say you have lower back pain, you've always had lower back pain, there are certain exercises that most people won't want to do. Hinge at the waist, certain yoga poses because they're afraid it's going to hurt more. But you have some very specific sitting down, lying down, leaning against a wall. Like you don't have to go all in with these crazy amounts of exercise, but some form of exercise might what? Increase circulation, strengthen another area. Tell us about exercise.
The way that I approach it in the Fix the Fire Damage is the way that I try to grade gradually and give somebody a graded way to resume activity because I see how important it is to, first of all, regain your confidence that you can still move. So there are teeny tiny things you can do, positions that feel pain free. And that's important to go into with the awareness that, okay, my body isn't having pain right now, so it's going to be okay. That's a really important underlying message to all of the strategies in the book. If you can affect your pain, whether it's to make it worse or to make it better, that means you have control. And that's a really
Mm.
important aspect here. And then so I go through three different phases of healing. And we start with the very earliest, which is release. We want to release the pain. So we find positions that are low stress biomechanically. We want to take the stress out of the situation so that your brain can remember what it's like to not have pain. And then we build on that with the retrain phase, which is where we start introducing some muscular activity, but isometric. So you're not moving through a range of motion, you're just squeezing intentionally very targeted muscles to help them release. So
Mm.
here's the funny thing. Most of us think that when something feels tight that we need to stretch it, but more often that tight sensation is a sign that the area in question is not strong enough. And so the muscles are tightening to give you the stability that a stronger muscle would. So the idea is to go into the tight area and activate the muscles, make them work. So first of all, you're tiring them out so that when you're done squeezing, they have to relax. And that can often feel really relieving. But also in the long run, you want to try to activate that muscle more so that it does the job that your body wants it to do.
Mhm.
So that's the idea behind the isometric squeeze and hold exercise. And then the others start to build on the isometric and start to strengthen and stabilize. But these are really small, easy to do things that I haven't been able to find. So this is why I wrote the book. I wasn't able to find a resource for my patients to say, okay, go home and do,
Mm.
because everything out there looks like it's geared towards someone who's already moving well. Even some of the strategies in the pain resources, I just never felt comfortable telling my patients to go do that thing because it was too much. And so nobody is saying, okay, you know what? It's actually okay to lie down and put ice on, and you're actually doing something when you do this strategically.
Yeah, I can vouch for that lying down and doing something, not with the ice, but I had sciatica really badly in my 30s.
Oh,
And
wow.
I finally ended up, there were machines that I went to everything. And finally, this one doctor, he said, I don't necessarily want you to sleep on the floor. I just want you to lie on the floor on the side that doesn't hurt and put a pillow, right? I don't even remember all of it. And he said, you're going to have to do this for an hour at a time. And of course, I'm like, I'm busy. I'm a chef. I don't have time for this. But I was in such pain, I thought I'll try anything. And sure enough, little by little, that muscle or whatever causes sciatic, I'm not even sure, just gave way. And I was able to then start walking, power walking and getting some real exercise. But it was
Nice.
hard for me to just give in and go like, yeah, I'm just going to lay here.
Yeah, that you bring up a really good point because that is probably the most challenging thing that I butt up against as well. So, first of all, good on that doc that you saw. That was
Yeah.
really good advice and uncommon. And yeah, it's hard to find a way. I think the body finds the most I think it usually finds the best way to get our attention.
Yeah.
And if we don't pay attention to those early tiny signs, it'll find the loudest signal that it needs to get us to stop, really change something.
Yeah.
It's happened to me too.
And then we still, no matter what age we get to, and we say, oh, I don't feel like I have to do what I did when I was young, there is still this some little message floating around that it has to be hard. I can't tell you how many social media posts of all for all different age groups, you have to lift heavy.
Mm,
Great if you can, but what if
mhm.
you can't? And then there's this, I just hiked up Kilimanjaro with my stepson and I'm turning 65. Great. And now in the meantime, somebody who is in pain doesn't even want to go to Kilimanjaro, never mind. But I'm just saying those messages are still out there that we have to push. We have to work hard at this thing. And if we're in pain, then I don't know, there's probably a peptide somebody wants me to take or some kind of super duper pipe. I just read about these patches with nano metal gold particles in them that you put
Oh my
on.
goodness.
Yeah. And they're supposed to,
Wow.
yeah. So I'm just saying that it can never be simple, is I guess where I'm going with this idea. We have to find some big thing or some new thing to help us.
Yeah, if it isn't a gadget or something, it's some sort of you have to achieve great heights of something in order to show that pain who's boss or whatever.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Show that pain who's boss. Let's have a fight with our body about who's in control. And you mentioned the word control earlier, and I think that has to be one of the worst feelings if somebody's had chronic pain. They feel totally out of control. They've probably tried a whole bunch of stuff and they, like you said, this is going to be my life. But how diminishing is that thought? And never mind, the reality is many people are in pain.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
It would,
Hurts me to think about.
I'm sure it does. So tell me one. Okay, we're sitting at our desks here, Miss Chiropractor. I'm sitting up nice and straight because I went to Catholic school and the nuns would always stick
Oh my,
rulers down our back and make us sit up
oh,
straight. Yeah.
oh,
But
I have
it
nothing
paid
to say.
off well. I do try to sit up straight. But for most people who forget that, or even I kind of like my lower back is now curved out, what kind of things should we do to, I'm just saying, some people will because of the way we sit. Is sitting a really big deal when it comes to managing back or neck pain?
I think it is in certain people's lives. I think
Okay.
it's so ubiquitous now, sitting for everything. There was that trend, or recently, maybe not so recently, sitting is the new smoking, but there's no reason to vilify it necessarily. You can find ways to sit that are less bad. It's better to be restless. It's better to be able to get up and down as much as possible. I think variety is what we need. We just need a dynamic situation. So
Mm.
whether that means sitting on an unstable surface or just getting up and down, or some people really like to walk on their little walking pad while they're doing their work. It's really unique to what your preferences are. Some people who try the standing desk situation, they develop new pains because standing for 8 hours at a time is not, we're not designed for that.
Right.
So it's not necessarily the sitting, it's not the standing, it's the how is your body occupying that space and that time. You mentioned slouching in your chair. Slouching is actually, I don't mind slouching, and I tell some people they should slouch,
Hmm.
but it's specific to their spine. So
Right.
what I see a lot is people come in and they say, "Oh, I've got neck pain or back pain," and they're trying really hard to sit up straight. And what they're doing is like they're doing this like the ruler down the back thing. And the mid back, the upper and the mid back is not designed to be sticking out like that. So when we do that to ourselves, we're actually introducing stress in the neck and in the low back. So
Hmm.
the neighboring areas have to compensate somehow. So they start to engage. And that's why we feel tight everywhere. So it can be helpful to actually embrace the slouch to some degree, as long as you don't also stress the low back. So the low back is designed to be belly out, butt out, a little bit of a sway. That's when the spine is happiest. And the upper back goes the opposite way and rounds a little bit. So if you try to embody that sort of the S curve of the spine, it can feel a lot less stressful. And it may not look perfect. It won't look like the ruler down your back, but it'll feel better.
Oh, that used to, there was a lot I could say about the nuns. That's another episode entirely. Okay, what do you wish I had asked you so that you want to tell people that I have not yet?
Oh, what do I wish? My goodness, there are so many different things. I did see I did see the little thing you had there about living fully. I don't know if you want to go there yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it made me think. So what does living fully mean? And at this point in my life, I would say that it's about becoming fully aware of how our emotional life influences our experience of the world in all aspects, learning how to check in with ourselves about how are we talking to ourselves about pretty much everything, like
Yeah.
what are we judging ourselves for, what are we glossing over or avoiding or hiding from, and what are we being too hard on ourselves for. So those kinds of things really change our experience of our pain, but also just of our day to day, our world. I think that's really where it's at. I think it's what I'm learning in my own life as well.
And living fully to me would be being able to be pain-free if somebody is
Mm,
struggling with pain, because we can't even emotionally experience something lovely, beautiful, a tree outside, if we're feeling in pain all the time.
that's a really good point. And at the same time, I worry about, I guess, making people feel like if they can't be pain free, there are some situations where it's just not possible. Then in that case, really focusing on their emotional life might be the way out. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to alienate the people who are truly struggling with pain
Absolutely.
that doesn't have an answer.
I didn't mean to even intimate
Oh
that,
no,
but
yeah,
yeah,
I
no, it's
know.
good you brought it up, though. Honestly, I would never. And there will be people, like you said, that are going to have pain.
Yeah, but I love to introduce the idea, as you said, that the possibility is there, that
Mm,
most of us who think we have pain that has to be there forever or is just part of our life, most of those are not true chronic pain, and most of them have answers. And I try to introduce those answers and those possibilities in the books and all my materials that I put out there.
and why don't you tell people what your website is, speaking of?
Oh,
information.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find everything about me and all my projects, and that crazy new Pain-Proof Your Home thing is there too. My website is ya-ling.com, and it's ya-ling because that's my first name is YA-LING.com.
Perfect. And you actually have your own podcast.
I do. I haven't interviewed people in a while, but I do right now. Season 3 is all about just me sort of pontificating, just
You're
10
holding
minute
court. Good for
thoughts.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is conversations about everyday pain.
I love it. I'm going to have to check that
Yeah.
out.
Thanks. That'd be
Yeah.
great. So, yeah, I really enjoyed chatting today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. Because as pain comes to everybody at some point, whether you hammer your finger, as you said earlier, if you had that experience, or just wake up with a pain. So good to know that we have these options, whether or not people can see you in Seattle or not. And you have an ebook as well. But
I
if
do.
you were to look at for the exercises that Ya-Ling was talking about, they're all there in great detail. The simple ones, the starter ones, the more aggressive ones.
I even have I have a free app that is basically chapter 4
Oh,
so
do
that
you?
people can access it on their phone, but I'm still working on it, but it's there and that's also on my website. You can see the app.
Okay.
It's the Pocket Pain Relief app.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. This has been really helpful, and I hope that people listening will share. That's you people listening. Share these episodes if you know somebody who could benefit from them. And head over to YouTube if you're listening to this on a platform like Apple or one of the other, Spotify maybe. Head over to YouTube so you can see my fabulous guests and I having conversations. And on that note, thank you again for being with us, Ya-Ling, and I will be back next week with another fabulous guest.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.